Hi everybody. Reacting to Premier League Game Week 4. As always, compare my predictions with the actual result. First game I predicted would be Southampton 0, Manchester United 3, and I'm very proud to say I got this absolutely spot on. I predicted Southampton 0, Man United 3, and the actual score at the end of it was indeed Southampton 0, Manchester United 3. Second game was Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest. I predicted it would be Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 1. I did think a lot of people said Liverpool were going to blow Forest out of the water, and I thought it would be a bit tight, and Nottingham Forest always seemed to give Liverpool quite a good game. And this proved to be no exception, with Nottingham Forest actually coming out 1-0 wins. That's really good results for Nottingham Forest, and it means that Nuno Espirito Santo's Nottingham Forest have not lost any game of the Premier League this season out of the first 4 games. That's really impressive. Having a better start than United, Chelsea, and Spurs. So third game, Manchester City versus Brentford. I thought Man City would have a really confident win here. I said it would be 4-0. What actually ended up happening was a very sneaky Manchester City 2, Brentford 1, after Brentford scored the opening goal a mere minute after the opening of the game through Johan Visser. But then, unfortunately, Haaland, the robot he is, decided, you know what, let's not malfunction, let's get the 2 goals that we need. We've got a 1-0 deficit, let's quickly just get 2, and then we can slack off for the rest of the game and we'll win at a canter. And that's what happened. Manchester City 2, Brentford 1. Fourth game was Fulham versus West Ham. I'm proud that I got this one absolutely spot on, because for 90 plus minutes it looked like I would be incorrect, but it did end up being Fulham 1, West Ham 1. But West Ham, I think, were lucky to get that one. I think West Ham probably should have lost that game, but they ended up getting a draw, so fair play to them. And it's been quite a slow start to the season for West Ham, especially considering how good their transfer window actually was. But good start for Fulham. Bit of a dodgy start for West Ham though. Next game, Crystal Palace versus Leicester. Another one where it looked for a long time would be incorrect, but was proven right. I said it would be a draw, 1-1. What actually happened is it was a draw, but it was 2-2. And Leicester were actually 2-0 up. But then Crystal Palace obviously wanted to give me the points, so they went and they clawed 2 back, and it ended up being a draw. Not the greatest start to life for Crystal Palace in the Premier League. They haven't actually won a game yet. But you know what? They may be getting there. I think they're probably getting there a bit. So let's see what happens. Leicester, I think they've had a pretty good start to the season, actually. Of all the relegated teams, I think they've probably had the best start to the season. Speaking of good starts to season for newly promoted teams, Ipswich Town, actually not terrible. Drawing with Brighton, which I found quite surprising. A 0-0 even. Kept Brighton scoreless at their own ground. And really just defended very well. So ended up, I said it would be Brighton 3, Ipswich 1. I think a lot of people, that was like the average score people were going for. And what actually did happen was nothing. Ended up being Brighton 0, Ipswich 0. Alright, Aston Villa versus Everton. I thought it would be a lot more routine for Villa. Villa made really hard work of it. Villa ended up winning 3-2. I said they'd win 2-0. And for a long time it looked like, should be Everton 2-0 or 2-1 but I think as soon as the second goal went in and it was Aston Villa 2, Everton 2, I think a lot of Everton fans and Aston Villa fans were saying, there's only one way we really see this going now. And fortunately for Villa and unfortunately for Everton, it did go exactly that way. That's 2-0 leads blown by Everton successively, separated by an international break in between. That's really bad way to go into an international break and to return from an international break. They would have hoped for a bit of a fresh start again, Everton. But for them, it kind of just looked like the same old. Couldn't close the game out. I don't know how often it happens that a team throws away 2-0 leads in 2 successive games. But really unlucky Everton. You've dropped 6 points in the last 2 games. I think Everton are going to start to really struggle. I think unless Dash can find some really good, some real solid form and can get 1 or 2 wins soon, I think they're in trouble. I think Dash, especially in his job, is in trouble because Everton, they didn't have the absolute worst of transfer windows. They brought in some good guys. But yeah, they're just really, I think even for their standards this season so far, they've been underperforming. They're not a really good side anymore, but they're still underperforming, I think, compared to what a lot of people were thinking. Especially now in a season where they're probably not going to get points deducted. But yeah, let's see. Bournemouth versus Chelsea. I thought it would be a high-scoring affair, 2-2. And for a lot of the game, it looked like it probably should have been a draw between Bournemouth and Chelsea. Evan Nielsen, Bournemouth's replacement for Solanke, still waiting for his first goal in the league, had a golden opportunity for penalty, but then hit a really poor one and got it saved by Robert Sanchez. And then Chelsea just towards the end manages to get that one magical goal from Nkunku, who when he's not injured seems to always pitch up for Chelsea. He's one of those players where you often forget he's actually in Chelsea, or that they have a player like this, or they have this player. And then when he plays, you're like, oh yeah, Chelsea have this guy. Chelsea do have this guy as a striker or an attacking option. So, but yeah, ended up being 1-0 to Chelsea. And Chelsea have actually had a pretty good start, it must be said, to their Premier League campaign. Tottenham versus Arsenal. Oh my word. Tottenham. They looked for a large proportion of this game like they should be winning this game. They really did look like they should be winning this game, or at least, keeping it. It looked like a long time to be a classic 0-0 type game where the teams both try and keep going, but they can't really find anything. But never fear when you play against Tottenham, it seems, because you will get a corner or a set piece and you'll manage to score. And that's exactly what happened. Arsenal got a lot of corners, and eventually off one of them, they scored. They only scored off that one corner of the whole game. They had multiple corners. But that's all it took. It ended up being Tottenham 0, Arsenal 1. I said it would be Arsenal 3, Tottenham 1. So I actually predicted Arsenal would get a more comfortable victory. So Tottenham, I guess, performed a bit more respectably in that regard. But actually, on the day, it was disappointing to get a loss. Because on the day, given how both teams were performing, and the way Spurs just kept on relentlessly attacking, you would think Tottenham should win. You should think they should win or at least get a goal. But they just couldn't convert anything. People were yet again just running down the wings, running across the park, but not getting goals. Johnson decided that he wasn't going to do his classic cutback. And that's when Solanke's there. That is so bizarre. That is so odd. Of all the times Johnson could have chosen to not be doing his classic cutbacks, this was possibly the worst time. This is the worst game, worst time. And with the options available around him, it made no sense for him to not do the cutback in this game. And he wasn't even comfortable taking on his man. We looked better with Odegaard on. But yeah, I think it was disappointing given what was happening on the day and given Arsenal's depleted squad. And that actually, basically, we had a fully fit XI besides Basuma. So yeah, I think, it wasn't good. And it starts for a pretty poor start to the season for Postecoglou and Spurs. Only 4 points in 4 games. We really need to start winning some. We really have to start winning some. But anyway. Last game was Wolves versus Newcastle. Another switcheroo comeback. I said it was going to be 5-0 Newcastle. And when Wolves were winning for the majority of the game, I thought, I've had a howler here. Wolves are actually going to pull one over Newcastle. But it was not to be. Newcastle ended up doing a Man City and an Aston Villa. Went behind, but then they came back. Yeah, I think from the 80th minute mark onwards, Newcastle came in, scored 2 goals, and then ended up winning the game 2-1 against Wolves. Wolves also, a bit like Everton, looking like they could be in some trouble here. Unless Gary O'Neill does something, or Wolves go for someone else, or they try different tactics. They're looking a bit lost. I think of other than newly promoted teams, I think of the teams that are remaining, that are, been in the league for a while, I'd say that the 2 long stay teams that are looking most in danger of being relegated currently are Wolves and Everton, just based off these first couple of games. If this first couple of games was the form over the whole season, I think I would actually maybe put Wolves and Everton in the relegation spots. But it's still a very long season, lots of time for Wolves, Everton, and for lots of other teams Teams can still choke a bit more. Teams can still really hit their stride. Teams can still just keep being the same. So yeah, it's too early to say at this point, but I did very well in my predictions this week, which was well overdue. Well overdue. Compared, my first 3 weeks were terrible. Let's hope, just like me, Spurs start to pick up some points soon and have a bit of a turnaround in their form. But yeah, FA Cup games starting tomorrow, and I will post my predictions for the FA Cup matches very soon. And as always, come on you Spurs.